Today, as we come for the table of the Lord, remember the sacrifice of Christ. I want to take a few thoughts from Isaiah 53. Remember back when God made man, it says he breathed into his nostrils, and man became a living soul. In other words, God owns man. They didn't have any life until God breathed in them, and they became. There was a time when man wasn't, and then there was a time when man became a living soul, which means they're responsible now. They have to answer to God. A little bit later there, the statement's made, behold, all souls are mine. Just to clarify it, they belong to God. They're going to have to answer to God. You have to stand and give an account of the deeds done on the body. Why? Because God owns. All souls are His. They belong to Him. In other words, God can use them for whatever purpose He deems necessary. They belong to Him. Goes on, he says, the soul that sinneth, it shall die. There's no getting out of this. I mean, there's nothing a man can do, a man that's been created, to alleviate this. If you sinned, see, the difficulty comes in that when man sins, their soul sins. You just don't sin and say, well, just an accident. Your soul sins. And you remember now, God owns your soul now. All souls are His. So the soul that sinneth, it shall die. This is the dilemma that the human race finds itself in now. Adam, what did he do? He sinned. What happened? He died. You pass that on now. You have a nature of Adam? Well, are you born of a woman? Have you been born of the seed of Adam? Well, then you have the nature of sin, but see, that's more than that. It's more than just having a nature that sins, or having a nature that's capable of sinning, although that in itself would you'd have to have somebody save you from that. But see, we know by revelation that all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. Now we've got a dilemma. Mankind's got a dilemma that they've sinned, and the payment for sin now is that your soul has got to die. Oh, so why do you bring it up here? Because this is the remedy. In Isaiah 53, there's this very unique statement that's made here in verse 10. That yet it pleased the Lord to bruise him. It pleased the Lord to bruise him. Now God's working out a purpose here. He's actually opened this up. Through Isaiah, he's going to show us what He's going to do about this sin problem. This man soul that sinned. When He hath put him to grief, He hath put him to grief when, now this is very specific language. When did God put His soul to grief? When He made His soul an offering for sin. Now remember now, Jesus never sinned. Never had Jesus ever sinned or offended God in any way. His soul didn't have to die for Himself, did He? His soul was pure, in other words. It was sinless. Now we've been trained throughout the whole Old Covenant about what an intercessor is, what a scapegoat, and what God brought all this to our understanding so we'd be able to understand what He said. He laid on Him the iniquity of us all. Where did He lay it? Well, He laid it on His body on the tree. He made His soul an offering for sin. He who knew no sin was made to be sin. What part of Him was made to be sin? His soul was made an offering for sin. Why? Because that was the payment that was due God. The souls of the creature He's made had sinned and come short of the glory of God. And so God lays on Him the iniquity of us all, and He purged it away. In other words, He died. At the moment of death, sin was removed. And I see the compassion of God in this. Jesus voluntarily submitted himself to the death of the cross. He did this for us. We were without strength, but in due time. See, God sent Christ, made of a woman. He was under the law. He didn't sin, and yet he delivered us that were under the law. We had sinned and come short. And now, look at this wonderful blessing. Psalm 16:10, he says, thou wilt not leave my soul in hell. Amen. It wasn't enough for him just to die. Now, this took away sin, but he had to come back. He had to come back. His soul had to come back. And it did. His soul had never sinned. God could lay on him the iniquity of us all. He could go in, he could actually die and go into the depths of the earth and go to the abode. He came back. Why could this? That I won't suffer my Holy One, to see corruption. He'd come back, and now, see, we know the rest of the story, don't we? He ascended into heaven. He's sitting on the right hand of God. He's interceding for who? For the ones that he saved. He's saving. What's he saving about you? What's so unique? He's saving your soul. This is what he's saving. You know, there's a lot of misunderstanding about this that's out there in the world today. But see, this, if God doesn't save my soul, then salvation didn't work. If I can lean my trust on what Christ did on my behalf and my soul not be saved, see, the whole thing's just been for nothing anyway. He's saving your soul. The essence of who you really are is going to be saved. And see, the thing is that it has to be this way. It has to. God's just. And so in order, if you've sinned, and the requirement's death of your soul, Jesus pays the price. And what's he salvaging? Your soul. All souls. On that day, there's going to be a number which no man can number. Of who? The redeemed. Those ones that God purchased with the blood of Christ. This is a marvelous salvation. And I glory in the cross of Christ. Because see, it was at that point. Now, if you know, people can get lost and, well, but how do I know I'm saved? Because Jesus died to take away sin. That's how I know. See, it wasn't something that I did. It wasn't by works of righteousness that I did, but it was by his death. He redeemed them that were under the curse of the law. So we come to remember his death and his resurrection. This is a joyful time. When you remember, this is the point in which God was pleased with Christ, pleased with the sacrifice. And now if you believe the record that God's given of his Son, if you've repented and been baptized, he's pleased with you. We come to a happy God that's pleased, and we're pleased with him too. That's what we're taking of the sacrifice. We're partaking of Christ. We're pleased. We thank God that he did this for us. Let's have a word of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father,